Well, I have got it in, so I'm going to take this off. I've already started unbolting the compound. You can see the lead screw that's in there, and this is what I had bought to replace it. But if you notice, this one's not quite as stiff or as big around as that one, so I may go back and buy a bigger screw for that one. What did I do with that other screw? There it is. There's the other one that I've got. So this one you can see is quite a bit thicker. So that is what I'm going to use to replace this one. So what I've done, just to remove everything, so if you look, I don't have a lot of room back here, but I also mashed this into my outlet. Oh, actually it's the other one back there. You can see where I dented it. We were moving this thing and I borrowed these two machinery dollies from a buddy of mine. There's one back there. And we were moving it and sort of running this in, so I had two pointed that way back here, the ones that you can see right there. And actually, when I was moving this thing, I grabbed these from a parking lot somewhere. Somebody set them out for trash. I've got a stack of these shelves, but when I was moving this using this pry bar, I would get under it. So say this is the machine, I would get under it and I would try to leverage like this to push the machine over. So, like if you look at this, you can see I can push the machine and nudge it. So that's basically how I moved this thing for the most part. The problem was it would slip on the concrete. So as a workaround, to give me something to dig into, I would slide that under the machine and just keep sliding it forward. And it gave it something to kind of grab and allowed me to move it quite a bit easier. But a friend of mine from work came by and helped me get it in here. So what we did is my doors open. I've got hinges, so this wall is actually a big door, essentially. And right here is the seam. So I can open these two doors and they just come out. So I was able to roll it in this way and then come back around through here with it. It was interesting because there's a lot of weight. This lathe is weight, the weight distribution is different. So, for instance, this lathe, when I was picking it up, you could almost pick it up like at this point and it would pick it straight up and it would pick up straight. It wouldn't try to sag, even though you're way further this way. All your weight is mostly at the headstock. There's not as much weight here. And most lathes that I've moved, the tailstock is by far lighter than the headstock. This thing is a beast. I think it actually weighs more than my Howa does, and the weight distribution is kind of crazy. So, I don't know. This thing was interesting to move. It was a little bit different. But my intention is to remove everything here. So from this point down, basically all this stuff is going to be removed. I'm going to remove this, and I'll probably use some of this stuff to make myself a bearing of some kind that will drive this forward and backwards. I may actually just plug these, but what I'll end up not using basically everything here and down. I won't be using this, I won't be using this, I won't be using anything but basically this, I think, and this. And really, I may not even use some of these. I guess these give us a bunch of different gears. You can see 1,000 down to 45. There's 2,000 down to 90. So it just, it's just a speed selector that I think I'll eventually just kind of use high, medium, and low and pick something up here and probably put an encoder on this thing somewhere. So originally, all of the electronics and everything was in this cabinet here. I'm probably going to just unbolt this whole cabinet and do away with it. And what I'm thinking about doing is putting a system where I can roll almost like a drawer out this way and have all the electronics right here. So when I roll them in, I can leave this up against the door or up against the wall, and all of my electronics I can just roll out as far as I need to roll out this way, even if I have to kind of extend the electronics out this way and just, you know, have it where I can roll it out. That way I can push this all the way up against the wall. As you can see, my floor space is getting taken up pretty quickly. I had a bunch of stuff over here. This desk was over here, and right now it's just kind of sitting here. But I put that up today and got it off the floor. Some of this stuff needs to go to a friend of mine, but all of these were over there. So by moving this down this way, that gave me a way to kind of make better use of this wall, which took a lot of stuff from over here. So I'm going to have CNC lathe, CNC mill, and mill. But eventually, I mean, it's kind of CNC. It does some CNC stuff. But what I'd like to do is eventually double up on this, find myself another milling machine that I could, you know, add to this one if I wanted to. And what I'm thinking is eventually this would go to the other side over here. So I've got that other pad that I'm pouring, so I may take this machine out and put a CNC mill over here, and this would be more in my fabrication area. I would still use it, obviously, but when I need to use something manually and just, you know, face something off, this would be the lathe that I could use. But if I did that, then that gives me quite a bit of room here, which would allow me, I think, to put maybe one more of those over here. Even if I had to sort of catty-cornered into that corner, that would give me a room for another CNC mill. And what I may even do is try to find one maybe a little bit smaller than this one, or move this one and put a bigger one in the center of the room. Now, this one really doesn't have a lot of space. Table's fairly small. It just, you know, there's some things that I would like to do differently with this one. But as of right now, that's the only one I've got. So a couple of things I'm going to do with some of the automation stuff I've been playing with. I'm probably going to eventually automate this saw to where I can put a piece in here, it opens and closes a clamp, and just can feed, cut, feed, cut, feed, cut. So I'm going to figure out a way to bolt something onto the back here that will have a wheel with some casters so I can still roll everything around if I want to. And I may make it where it's sort of a quick connect deal of some kind as well. And take this and this and this off, extend this out, and put an air cylinder here where I could pick up and drop down if I wanted to. Hadn't quite got all that figured out yet, but that's something I may eventually start working on, and may even sell like a kit. Make all the pieces to where you can bolt it on and just have a piece that will, you know, sit there and just automatically feed whatever bar you're looking for. So I'm going to do that, and this machine, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. And one of the things that I've been seriously considering, and I'm not sure if I want to do this or if it's worth it, but I've actually considered giving this lathe a Y-axis. So you see this moves back and forth, so I could keep that and make a piece that bolts here and comes up and down that has linear rails, to where I actually have an axis this way and this way. So essentially that would give me the ability to move my tools up and down, change the height, but also possibly even put motorized live tooling in it as well. So I could actually advance and do milling on the face of something, or mill into the side of something that I've been working on in the lathe. I'm going to start with just this, but I may start working on drawing up something that I can do that with as well. So I would actually have another axis altogether built into it. So you would end up with, I guess that would be Z and X and Y and whatever this other axis would be. No, wait, I'm crazy. So this is 2 axis. I'm thinking spindle like a milling machine, but essentially you'd have X, Y, and Z axes similar to a mill. And I've even considered, because this would be your X and Y. That don't make sense. So this would be Z, I guess. Z and X. Even though this is showing X and Y. So I guess that's actually X and Y. But Z would be more like this axis if you were running it like a mill. And what I could do is use Mach 3 and have one profile that's just lathe, and all it does is this, and then maybe one other axis that I could just manually tell it where I want it when I want it. But then if I wanted to, maybe a simple way to do some stuff is run my lathe program but have a separate profile that's set up as if this is a milling machine, and actually use that to do some other stuff. I don't know. That's way, way, way down the road. But anyway, we'll figure that one out. But yeah, this is what I've got. You know, my problem is I don't really have a way of messing with this and sending you videos, so I don't know if anybody's interested in seeing, but I'll try to make update videos as I progress through here. I'm thinking I'm probably going to take this off. So you've got bolts here. So this whole piece will eventually come out. I'll get rid of a lot of this. I do have, there's a lubrication thing here that provides lubrication, and I'm thinking about, I've got a little pump, manual lubrication pump, or finding one of these somewhere that I can add to this to sort of make that more of an automatic deal, so it just shoots out lubrication a certain amount. I don't know. So anyway, but yeah, all these are going to go away. This is going to go away. That's going to go away. Ball screw will replace this. Whether it's in this area or mounted a different way, I don't know. But here's the lathe. I finally got it home. I was looking at another lathe, and I was actually going to buy it. It was $6,000. The guy wanted, and it was worth it. But the problem is, the other lathe would have come out to like right here. So you see I don't have that much room here, and I also don't have, even if I put it here, so if I move this one over here, then I'd have to redo all this stuff. But then that would also screw me up if I ever wanted another CNC mill in this area. So I'm probably just going to leave things the way they are. And I think the only thing the other one really gave me that this one won't when I'm finished with it is a tool changer. So it had an 8-station tool turret built into it. To be honest with you, I think it would be kind of neat to build one of those. So I may start designing that and see what I could do. And honestly, if you look at the way this is made, you could literally have a rotary tool changer right here if you wanted to. So I may look into that as well. Maybe utilize this somehow to where it, you know, rotates, maybe have a worm drive thing, or I don't know. I'll figure that out, but that might be an option as well. So I would have the ability to change my tools this way. That one rotated like this. So it was very similar. Let me move this out of the way. To this one in the way that it worked. And really, it'd be kind of cool is if I could find basically this, maybe from another lathe, because that would be exactly the size that I would need. You know, if I could find just another one of these, that would be actually kind of cool. I may look into that. So if I could find that or build that, then that would give me a way of doing tool changes for this lathe. I'm also considering, do I want to have a standard, you know, regular type lathe tool here, or do I want to turn it similar to this one? So the nice thing about this stuff is you don't get as many bird's nests in this type of a setup, because basically you're throwing all of your chips down in this area. With a standard tool on a lathe, it would be pretty easy to get your, you know, this sort of holds all of your chips. So if you could take this and flip it back here where you're turning in this area instead, it would probably work a lot better. But I don't know if, I don't think these were really designed for that. I think this was made for all of your tool pressure to come down on this area and rest against this area here. So if I were to go that route, I think I may end up messing up. I don't know. I've even considered putting linear rails right here, or right here, or right here, to where your x-axis actually travels on something other than this. I don't know if I could do that or if I even should, but that's an option. But I don't know if it's worth going through that much hassle or work, or if I should just use it like a regular lathe, which is probably what I'll end up doing. But if I did put another x-axis, then, or another axis here, it would either have to be here, and it would, you know, put it in the right place, or I could put it back there. But then again, I'm now not using this the way it was designed, which could cause problems in the long term. So, you know, I could actually completely go away from this saddle altogether, just completely do away with that and use the bed as a base for a whole nother setup, just a totally different design, totally different saddle. And again, I could get those linear rails and put them here and let it ride on those, or something similar to that. I don't want to put them up here, which would be the easier place to put them. If I could put them here and here, then that would work better, but then I lose my tailstock as an option. So I don't really want to do that. I still want to keep my tailstock. Obviously, the longer you go, the more you're going to need tailstock. So I'm also considering making this another axis to where I can move it in and out as well. I don't know if it's worth doing that or not, but that might be something I do or automate, to where, you know, put a stepper here so I can turn that in and out, or maybe even air cylinder or something along those lines, to where this will be something I can just flip with a switch and actuate. So instead of having this, just completely do away with this and put an air cylinder or hydraulic cylinder in here. Air cylinder would work better, I think, because then I don't have a hydraulic pump running all the time, which is something I'm trying to avoid. But I don't know if an air cylinder would actually push hard enough, unless I could find a great big air cylinder to do what I want to do here. So find something that's, you know, quite large, even if it has to stick out here, you know, a good bit, then I could do that and just have this where I can literally push in and out with just the flip of a button, make it an input or I'm sorry, an output. And, you know, that way too, if I wanted to automate it, this, I could have it set up to where it runs forward or backwards all on its own, have its own lead screw that kind of could go, you know, maybe to here, or I don't know. If I did that, I'd have to cover some of this stuff too, but I'll figure all that out. I may go ahead and do away with these, but I'm probably going to leave them on there for now, so I can use this as a scale to actually test different things. So when I tell it to move an inch, I should see an inch in the DRO here. So that would help me measure that accurately. But yeah, so lathe is in. I'm going to probably do a little more cleaning up and try to get some of this stuff cleaned up. Sad part is I'm hardly ever in my shop anymore, other than moving machines, building machines, fixing machines. I fix them more than I run them. But hopefully at some point this will be something that I can make a little bit of money on. That's what I'm hoping for. Maybe I can make some money out of here and offset some of the costs that I've incurred in doing all of this stuff that I'm doing. So, but yeah, there's the shop updated, redone, new stuff. Like I said, I'm going to try to clean up a little bit today and get this straightened up where it's actually a little bit easier to get around in here, and go from there. So, any questions, let me know. Y'all have a great day. Bye.